Well, welcome to the Planning Community of Practice webinar series. Our speaker today is Karen Miller with the Huntington District, and also I think she has John Clarkson in there helping as well. She's going to be talking to us about the new EC that was just recently released. Karen did a lot of work on this EC, and funnily enough, we had a webinar almost a year ago, or a little less than a year ago, on the same topic, and the release was going to be imminent for it. But we are glad to say that it has now been signed. So take it away, Karen.
Good afternoon, everyone. And yes, this isn't deja vu. John and I did this webinar a year ago, and those of you out there that have talked with me over the past couple years, we thought it was very close, but finally it is here. So we're happy to be presenting this webinar today. Got a lot of slides, and we'll try not to belabor anything too much. And so please put your questions in the chat, and we'll try to leave time for that as well. So just some objectives. We just do want to talk a little bit, go back and, why are we do review? What are some of the key changes? What are the types of reviews that we do? And talk about some things about review plans. And for those of you who aren't familiar, there's a review policy homepage on our toolbox, but then engineering also has their CERCAP, which is where you can go to find certified reviewers for any engineering discipline. So this little word cloud or Wordle, whatever you want to call it, is built on the words in this presentation, and you'll notice that the word review pops out, obviously really large. The next one, what do you see? DQC. And when you kind of think about that and then ATR coming along, it makes sense, the things that we're looking at. So why do we do reviews? An extra set of eyes is always good. No one's perfect, but, we're all going to make mistakes. But we also want to really ensure that we're consistent with application of policy, guidance, design, criteria. That's another reason it's good to have reviewers from outside your own office, outside your organization, so that we can make sure that we're consistent as we apply the same policies across the Corps. We want to make sure we're using the most scientifically sound and sustainable water resource solutions. That's our goal, is to provide that, and reviews help us to get that. And then, of course, there are many statutory and administration requirements for these reviews that we have. In a nutshell, that's why we do them. We've also had from James Dalton, our Director of Civil Works, all throughout the senior leadership, they emphasize that they have a commitment to quality. Right now, with all of the supplemental work that's being talked about, and I'm sure in every district, we're talking about how can we deliver these products, how can we deliver studies, how can we deliver designs and construction, in an effective and efficient manner, and how can we do things right the first time, and really focus on making sure that we're doing the right things as well, risk-informed decision-making. So what does the Civil Works Review Policy apply to? I think sometimes we get myopic vision and we think, well, it applies to what I'm doing in planning, but it's use-case-wide. It's anything within Civil Works needs to have reviews. And all of that's detailed in the EC, and it covers all levels of review from your basic district quality control to the external peer reviews we've been mandated to do as well. Feasibility studies, of course, we know, CAP studies, reevaluation reports, designs for rehab, project modifications, post-authorization change studies, all of those types of things get reviewed. CAP projects get reviewed. Design has reviews. And there are multiple times when, review touches each of these. And even when it gets to O&M, we have reviews there. So we just want to make sure that everyone understands that this policy is truly a Civil Works-wide policy. Okay, let's get to some of the key changes. In actuality, there isn't that much change from 214 to 217, and so I know it puzzled everyone why it took us so long to finally get through all the hoops. But there were a few things, I guess, that hung us up along the way. But for the most part, the major changes are found with the DQC, but we'll go over a few of those, and then we'll get into more details of what those are. Okay, so last year we reported that we would have not only a table of contents, but we would be going to a numerical paragraphing, but we found out the hard way that a complex document and a basic document are completely different, and so now it's gone back to the paragraph. So any of you that have a an advanced copy that wasn't signed. It was signed by Dalton on February 20th, but then as it went through the ACIP process, the paragraphing got changed. So it goes back to the what's called basic paragraphing. So it's a minor detail, but if you wonder what happened when we went through ACIP publishing, that was the request, that we go back to a basic document. So you'll find it has a table of contents, but it does have a different paragraphing than the draft that was floating around. Smart planning processes were integrated because some of that came out post 2012 when EC14 was out, and we tried to encourage and talk about using risk-informed decision-making in your levels of review in Chapter 7. And then, as I mentioned previously, there's a lot of change within DQC, Chapter 8. These are some of the bullets, and we'll go over those. Again, John's going to talk about that when we get to the DQC section. I won't call them all out here. In the ATR section, which is Chapter 9, we're now requiring ATR certification. There are different COPs that have rosters and lists and places that you can find within planning. Of course, we have our planner database that has all of the folks who are certified. Engineering has CERCAP, but there's also a list of reviewers for real estate, climate change, climate preparedness COP, and some of the others. Another key change is that the ATR team, if they do receive a product for review and it does not appear any DQC taking place, or it's just not adequate and it's not appropriate, then the products could be returned without review. Another key change is that the PCX-IN has, for a while, had an agreement with the INDC MTX for decision documents, but once you move into the design and phase, the RMO for any products for inland navigation will now be the INDC MTX. We also had some new WRDA requirements along the way that got incorporated into Chapters 10 and 11, actually WRDA 2014 and 2016, I believe. And then we've got some additional information in the what constitutes the need to have a safety assurance review, and to try to help explain what are significant threats to human life. And there's more discussion now on whether or not reviews are required or needed for work that we do for other entities. So I think most everyone on the webinar today should be familiar with what we mean by district quality control, agency technical review, independent external peer reviews, both Type 1 or the SAR, also known as Type 2, and then we have policy and legal compliance review. And you may be familiar, this has been around since EC 209, and we see that we've got the universe of civil works products and DQC encompassing everything, and then we have smaller subsets for ATR and our IETRs. And the little, in the Venn diagram there in the middle, that would be your safety assurance review overlapping with your Type 1 for studies that have concerns with significant threat to human life. This has been added to the EC to try to kind of show the stages of civil works development review. It's not scale and it's not comprehensive, and it shows ATR of your draft and your final and the seamless DQC, but it also, you'll notice that H is shown with a line all the way through from cradle to grave. So, I mean, it's just trying to get us, and we know that some reviews will start in the middle, some, just different places, but we're just trying to get a good sense of, we've got reviews for processes and products across that are mandated to us, and also that we as an agency have determined what we should do. Okay, so now John Clarkson with RMC is going to just talk about the changes we've made for DQC.
Okay, thank you, Karen. I just want to talk a little bit about DQC. As I travel around the country, I get asked the question, what is DQC? And I get lots of different answers from, we check the math, to, my supervisor checks it, to, we do 30, 60, 90% reviews. It doesn't mean anybody looks at it. So everyone seemed to have a different definition. So we spent a little bit more time in this document trying to explain what is DQC. It's more of an integrated review, and it's detailed peer review checking the documents, the computations, and the graphics. It's not just milestone reviews. The bottom line is everything is checked. Another way of saying that, if someone's going to use your work to make a decision, then it needs to be checked. So the EC goes on and talks about quality checks. It is checking the math and checking all the computations, graphics, making sure that they're correct. And we need to make sure that we budget enough time and funding for this to occur. And there's also a requirement for the control of documents that we record and memorize this information. So in there's a requirement for engineering. This is not for planning, but just so that you understand, it's called red dot checks. And that is when you have a set of computations, when you agree with the statement on it, you place a red dot next to each number. And shows that you agree with the input, shows you agree with the math, and it also shows that you agree with the takeaways from doing the computation. Oh, I just wanted to say that on this, the digital signature is not acceptable. That you have to, you can't type your initials. They can either be written out, but a PDF signature is acceptable. There's an error there. Oh, it is acceptable. I misread it. Sorry. The EC explains what quality checks is. So we're just checking make sure that we understand the problem. Have we looked at enough solutions, the construction methods, schedules and costs, any lessons learned that are required, and that we comply with USAID's policy. So the EC talks about some minimum requirements that need to be followed. You need to assign a DQC review lead. The review lead will coordinate the reviews and make sure that everyone's involved. The idea is whenever there's a key risk-informed decision is made, you need to engage your ATR team to show that they concur, that you don't want to find out later that they don't occur. So we're trying to avoid duplication of work. There's another requirement for DQC certification, and there's an exception that's spelled out that when you don't have to do DQC, but basically anything that you do where someone's going to use your work to make a decision, it needs to be DQC. And then there's a description about quality assurance roles. So here's a sample that's in the EC for DQC certification, and we set this up to where your team lead would do it. So if somebody has a group of 4 or 5 people working on a document, they'll have this sheet and get their team to review it, and it shows that there's concurrence with the work being done. I'm sorry, I said their team, the ATR team, the equivalent discipline check it. I'm sorry, I misspoke. It is DQC. Okay, now we're getting into ATR. So here the objective for ATR is to get them involved early in the process, similar to the DQC. As we stated earlier, DQC lead identifies a key issue. You bring in the ATR team. One point, we define the roles here. The ATR team is to validate, or they're to make sure that DQC has occurred. They're to bring up important issues, concerns, and lessons learned. But the ATR team is not to make project decisions. That's the PDT's role. There's also some requirements, as Karen stated, for having certified reviewers. Again, the bottom line is we're trying to get everything DQC'd. So if the ATR team doesn't see any evidence that DQC was appropriate and effective, that they don't see any evidence that it happened, they're to return it to the PDT with no action. So again, that's back to our bottom line up front. Everything's going to be checked. And another point is whenever there's a key decision to be made, you bring in your ATR team. There was a discussion about the significant threat to human life in the EC. There was not much in 214, but we tried to define it a little better about when is the safety assurance review, sometimes known as a type 2. And so again, the criteria hasn't changed. It's pretty much the same as it was before. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Karen. Thank you.
Okay, most everybody knows what is a review plan, but it kind of can be seen, and I don't know that districts always think about it this way, but it's the scope of work you're agreeing to with your review management organization. So it describes all the reviews that would be performed. A key factor is that, if you've got say a flood risk management project, you want to have a determination by the district chief of engineering on whether or not there's a significant threat to life safety, but it does establish who that review management organization is for your project. So it's just a very important document for working hand in hand with your review management organization. So when you're starting your review plan, you want to check with your RMO. Make sure you know who that is. You can get help on your the life safety assessment, the latest templates. Generally speaking, you're going to be working with a planning center of expertise, but the RMC is also RMO for dam or levee safety studies where there's modifications being done, and also if there is a significant life safety concern, then the RMC will be your RMO. And again, as I mentioned earlier, for design of and products associated with Inland Nav, it will be the Inland Nav, NCX, and then, the Inland Design Center. And then our MSCs can also be often, for your CAP projects, things like that, etc. So there could be a question, it's who's your RMO? So starting early and asking that question and figuring that out is a good thing to do. We're looking at having as soon as you sign your FCSA for a study, you're not going to have your reviews all fleshed out, but by the time you get to the alternatives milestone, you're going to have a good idea of what you're looking at for the review of the draft report after your TSP. So those will be the time you'll be needing to look at whether or not you're going to be conducting IEPR, and that will give us enough time to get things in place so nothing slows down. Again, I want to stress that review plans are important because, again, they kind of act as that scope of work with you and your review management organization. And so that's why it's important for the review plan to adequately describe the project, what's being looked at in your study, or if it's a design, the elements that are going to present key risks. For planning studies, it's really helpful if you describe your without project condition, just so that we can, again, make a good determination and have justification if we're going to seek an IEPR exclusion. So your recommendation to not conduct an SAR should be documented. Again, really key is to have that district chief of engineering's assessment. And then you'll coordinate that with RMC, your PCX if need be, and your MSC prior to getting approval. So what does the RMO do? They endorse your review plan, including the life safety determination, assign your review team, will assign your ATR certification after looking at the ATR review report, can help develop the charge for the ATR, the different reviews, external peer reviews, and reviews the report that comes in from the Type 1 or Type 2 IEPR. And again, as I mentioned before, the RMO for dam and levee safety modifications is the RMC, but the appropriate MCX or PCX will take on leads for other studies and decision documents, and that the MSC is the RMO where the district chief of engineering has made the determination of no significant life safety risk and is agreed to by all. To review plans, even though I may have made it sound like a big effort, we don't really want it to be a big effort, but we do want to have that thought process put into it. The templates, a new template is being developed by the PCXs and should be out within a few weeks, and it will be updated. Until then, you'll want to make sure that you update the current templates when you're submitting something with EC 217 and any guidance that's been updated. But your review plan should tell the story and capture the study and project risk. And the big deal is, call somebody if you have a question and you're in doubt. In here, we're just throwing in some lessons learned on IEPR for your review plan, just some things that we've talked about. And don't be afraid to have questions in your charge, and this can be for ATR or for IEPR. IEPR generally get a task awarded. It's a good 2 months, 2 to 3 months. You want to start early enough, and often we don't think about when we need to get started on that. So that's another reason coordination with your RMO is very important. You don't want to wait till right before you're getting ready to have ATR to talk to your RMO. Planning phase, IEPR is generally concurrent, but the big key is when you're going to get your public review, and we've had a lot of studies where public review maybe is lagging behind, and so we have to hold the IEPR open longer. In your design phase, SAR can occur anytime, when you're ready for that. And construction phase can occur when there's a sufficient amount of work completed, and sometimes up to 50%. So I think people are familiar, but just in case you're not, if you go to the review section on the planning toolbox, you'll find a lot of important things there, one being the IEPR SOP. I have found a lot of people don't know about it, but it's a very comprehensive and useful document. Now, it is going to need to be updated a little bit for 217, and Amy McInnes has aware of that role he's got on that, and if he wants to speak to any of that, he's probably on the line, I hope. And just a little bit about CERCAP. First of all, what does it stand for? Now you know, Corps of Engineers Reviewer Certification Access Program, and it is used to help ENC manage and approve reviewers for civil works projects. And if you look at that, there's 750 reviewers Corps-wide that have already been certified and put into the system. And so it's a very valuable tool when I know I'm putting an ATR team together. And only CERCAP reviewers can conduct ENC ATRs. There's the home page, in case you're looking for it. And just some final thoughts here. Again, pay attention to your review plans. Allow time for review. I know we're going to be looking at how can we expedite, how can we get projects through. Maybe you're going to have to think about having dedicated ATR teams. Maybe you bring them on site for a week to ensure that it just doesn't linger and things get worked out. But again, working with your RMO, it's going to be a big help. A lot of people complain about having, to plan for the IETRs, and it's rarely on the critical path, at least if you think ahead. And then we want to make sure that we use CERCAP to identify our reviewers.